You're listening to the Skylight Books podcast. We're an independent, general interest bookstore putting great reads in the hands of people in the Los Feliz neighborhood of Los Angeles. Hosted by resident Skylighters, we're here to bring you new and exciting author conversations, group reads, and bookseller chats. Happy listening.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to the Skylight Books podcast. I'm your host, Mike Jeffrey. Skylight Books is an independent bookstore located in the Los Feliz neighborhood of Los Angeles, California. We're open every day from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. and require all customers to wear masks in the store regardless of vaccination status. We also offer online shopping and curbside pickup through our website, skylightbooks.com. And you can check out our upcoming events on our Crowdcast page, crowdcast.io/skylightbooks. It's a real pleasure to be joined today by musician Jess Williamson. We're going to do a little talking about reading, songwriting, in the very weird world of secondhand bookselling. How are you today, Jess?
Hi, I'm good. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm enjoying the gloom. I know you said you're not enjoying it so much, but it's a nice gray day in LA, as it feels like it is every time I host this show.
Are you drinking alcohol?
No, it's just Sicilian blood orange soda with a little bitter in it. Yeah, a little bit. That would be bad news if you called me out on the clock. Yeah, it's just soda. Jess is a Texas-born, LA-based singer-songwriter. Her most recent album, Sorceress, came out on Mexican Summer in the spring of 2020, and she's about to head out on tour with Jose Gonzalez. Are you excited for that?
Yeah, I am. I'm really stoked for the tour. It's going to be cool. It's going to be, he's solo and I'm solo, which is nice. So it's like a really small crew. I'm stoked for this one. We're like playing. What? Keep going. You go.
No, those are like my favorite kind of shows. I like just straight singer-songwriter on stage with guitar, no band.
Dude, and like they're seated. Like all the shows are seated in like theaters and stuff, which is ideal when you're like solo acoustic. Like I think I'm going to play acoustic guitar, which is kind of new for me. Live. I'm excited to really just feel like a straight up like folk singer.
Yes. It certainly as like an audience member, I always prefer the seated for that kind of show because, you know, if I'm just standing stock still, if there's like a level of self-consciousness there, whereas in the seat, you just kind of zone out and it's the best.
Yeah, I know. I like seeing shows seated also. It's funny, like I like playing, if I'm with a band, I like if the crowd is standing because there's like an energy. But when I'm solo, I like a seated audience. I think it's nice. It's like we can all just kind of like sink into like a quiet, slow thing.
Have you ever tried the move of telling people to sit down on the floor of like a G? Because that I've seen it go, you know, well and not so well when people make that suggestion.
No, I've never asked people to sit down. I don't think I've ever asked people to do anything. You know, sometimes people are like, you guys like come a little closer, or like,
yeah,
can you all stop talking? Or like, I don't know. I often think it can be awkward if like the person on stage makes a request of the audience. It can be tricky.
Playing with fire a little bit there.
Yeah. Dude, I've certainly had shows where like I'm solo and people are talking and it's like, I think you just have to pretend like it's not happening.
Yeah.
You know, like I went on a tour in the fall and there were a couple shows where there were some talkers and it's just like, it's so cringe, I think, when the person is like, excuse me, can you listen to me, like, do this thing I'm doing? You know, it's just like,
yes.
You got to get them to be quiet by the power of your song.
Yes, exactly.
Where they want to listen and pay attention. That's my thoughts on that one. But I find the seated vibe, there's less talkers.
Yeah, because there's like a built-in reverence there. You know, it's like you're at the movies or at like, you know, the theater or something. When you're sitting down and facing a stage, like it's not a talking environment.
Totally.
I wanted to talk a little bit about your journey to becoming a musician, because you studied photography first, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did in college.
And then what was like, when did the pivot sort of occur for you?
Well, thank you for asking. I like talking about this because I was like always a singer, like as a little kid, you know, like I was always like as a little tiny kid, it was like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was like, I want to be a singer like Dolly Parton, you know? And then that kind of got like that dream kind of got like beaten out of me a little bit, like when like I was in high school. And I remember thinking like, well, if I'm 16 and I'm not already a singer like Britney Spears, then it's never going to happen. Like I literally thought that. And so like I was just like in high school in Dallas, like being a high school kid in Dallas. And then it was like time to figure out like college and stuff. And I was like, oh, I guess like you go to college, you know, like, so I went to UT and like studied photography and stuff, but like had this nagging like desire, you know, to pursue music, but I didn't really play an instrument. You know, I just like sang, but I all my friends were in bands, and like I was always photographing my friends' bands. I was a huge music nerd. Like I wrote about music for our UT newspaper, and like I had a radio show, and you know, I was like a big fan. And then like towards the end of my time in Austin, I started taking banjo lessons. And like I started writing my first songs on the banjo. And then I moved to New York for a little while, and I went to graduate school there actually for photography, because I kind of just like didn't know what to do with myself. Do you know what I mean? Like I was like finishing college, and I was only 21 when I graduated college. I like was always like the young kid, so it just like worked out that I was just really young, like finishing school. And I applied to one grad school, and I was like, well, I guess if I get in, I'll go. And it was for this MFA in photography program at Parsons, at the new school in New York. And so I like take out all these loans, and I like pack up my bags. I like moved to New York, and I went for 2 semesters, and like it was awesome. I learned a lot, but then I was like, I started to freak out because I realized like I had this secret dream of like pursuing music, and it was this now or never moment. Like when I was seeing like, you know, especially like the loans that I was taking out and stuff. And it was like, oh, if I like stay in this program, I'm going to have to get, you know, a salaried job like in this field. Like it's kind of now or never. I'm 21. And so I dropped out of grad school, and I had been writing some songs, and I had like started like my first ever music project with my friend that was also my neighbor in New York, that was also a friend of mine that moved to New York from Texas. And so that was what it was. It was an experiment. I was just like, you know, it's now or never. Like the time to try this is in my 20s. And like, if it doesn't work out, I'll finish grad school and I'll like do something else, but I have to know. I just like need to know if I can do this or not. And so that's how it started. I had a band in New York called Rattlesnake, and we played like our first ever show was at Death by Audio in Williamsburg, which is gone now. This was like 2010 or 2009. And that band was really only active for like 6 months or so. And then I moved back to Austin and decided I was just going to have a solo project, because I found the band dynamic to be a little bit difficult of like, you know, you're always kind of having to depend on like another person's availability and stuff. And
yeah,
I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do this, just me, and see where it goes.
Yeah, it's a good story, because it feels like you know, you almost had this like undercover motive, right? Where it's like you moved to New York for photography, but you know there's going to be music there and you're in the scene. And then you join a band, but you kind of have this other thing happening, which is that you kind of know you want to be up there with the guitar. But I'm kind of curious, like, who was influencing those like early songs for you musically?
Well, have you ever heard, a lot of people haven't heard this guy, but have you ever heard of Ralph White? He's an Austin guy. So Ralph White has an incredible album. Well, he has several albums, but he has an incredible album called Trash Fish. And I think that's what it's called. Hold on, let me look it up really quick. I'm like on my phone looking this up, because I want to make sure I have this right.
We'll cut out this little delay.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Okay. Yeah. His album is called Trash. This album that I love is called Trash Fish. And basically, Ralph White is the reason I started playing the banjo, because when I was living in Austin, some friends of mine had this house where like a bunch of people lived that all like worked at the radio station and stuff, called Rancho Relaxo. And they would have like shows in their basement and like shows in their backyard. And it would be like touring bands and local bands. And one time, and I would like always go. And one time this guy named Ralph White played in their basement, and he played the banjo. And it was, I'd never like heard a banjo played like that. Like he played a banjo, he sang his songs, and also like his versions of like some traditionals and stuff. And it was like so moving and beautiful to me and like haunting. And so he's the reason that I started playing the banjo. And as far as like actually writing songs, like the earliest songs, I mean, I don't know how apparent it is in the actual songs, but like my biggest influences, like in the earliest days, I mean, they're still there, but definitely like Joanna Newsom. And it's hard to remember now. I mean, Karen Dalton, you know, but I found out about her kind of late. So I've been like playing the banjo and writing songs and stuff for a while before I heard about her. It was funny. Texas Gladden, like I liked how she sang, kind of crazy. And but it's hard to even really remember like specifically. Oh, Kimya Dawson, believe it or not. Actually, like in the earliest days, like Kimya Dawson, I remember going and seeing Kimya Dawson play at the Music Hall of Williamsburg when I was living there and like first starting to play shows and stuff. And who's the woman, the folk singer that has, not Linda Perhacs, although she was also really influential at that time. She did some stuff with Devendra Banhart. How influential can she really be? Vashti Bunyan. Bunyan.
Yes,
oh my God. Thank you. Vashti Bunyan. But it's like, maybe I'm not remembering because I don't really.
I want to take a walk around in your mind. That's her.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great song. Yeah.
So yeah, this like, you know, a lot of folk music.
How was it moving back to Texas? Because you weren't going back to Dallas, you were going back to Austin. But did that have like a feeling of homecoming at all, or that you felt like a belonging there maybe more than you did in New York?
Yeah, I was really like pretty miserable living in New York. Now I love visiting. I love spending time there, and you know, even spending like a month there to like work on a project or something. I love that. But like at that time in my life, I think in some ways I was like too young to, like, I moved there at a weird time. Like I like to say I was almost like too young and too old to move there. In that, like, I think if I had like moved there to go to undergrad and gone to like NYU or something, and, but you know what I mean? And like been in the dorms, and like, I would have like made friends like I did at UT. But like, because I moved there like right out of college at 21, and I didn't move there for a job, I moved there to go to school, but I didn't really fit in with the other people in my program, so I didn't make friends there. And so I just kind of felt like a fish out of water. And I also had never really lived outside of Texas before that. Like I had spent time in other places, but it was the first time. Like I remember when I got to New York, I realized, wait, like I left Texas. Like I don't have, it's not like I like left for the summer or something. Like I like don't have a reason to go back. Like I like left, like, and I panicked, you know, and I didn't really understand. Like I didn't have an understanding of New York. Like I think if I moved there now, I think I'd really like it, you know, but just at that time, it was all very confusing to me. And I learned a lot. It was cool. But when I got back to Austin, when I moved back to Austin, it was like I remember I went to like the food co-op to get groceries that I'd like always gone to like in college. And I was like back, and I like went to like get groceries for the first time. And I remember like the person working, like, you know, like looked me in the eye and was like, how's your day going? And was like, just like being like really friendly and warm. And I genuinely started tearing up because I was so touched by like the kindness of this like Texan like cashier at the food co-op, like being so nice to me. And, you know, I learned by leaving that I need like rivers and like I need a car and I need trees and I like having a dog and like I like living in a house and I like nature.
Yeah.
That stuff's really important to me. I didn't really know that until I left. So yeah, so when I moved back, it was awesome. And I already had so many friends and such a built-in community of musicians and stuff that I was able to like start playing shows and like record my first EP like in my friend's garage and have like my friends play on it. And I think, you know, like for free. And just I had people there to kind of like get going with music stuff.
And then how was the move to Los Angeles compared to that? Because, you know, you have this homecoming, you go into Austin, you start recording music, it feels like the ball starts rolling for you a little bit there. And then you make this jump to LA, which is, you know, one of the coastal elite headquarters.
Totally. I know. But I find that people here are so nice.
Yeah, I miss the mean New York a little bit.
That's so funny. Spoken like a true East Coaster.
Yeah, from Rhode Island. You know, close enough. I lived in New York for 6 years. Yeah.
I didn't really want to leave Austin. I really wanted to live in Austin and have the career of my dreams, you know, in music. And I kept like kind of setting these little little, what's the word? Like not guideposts, but it was sort of like, okay, I'm going to see how this thing goes. And if like I can quit my day job, then I can stay in Austin kind of thing. Like, you know, I was like hustling in Austin. I was like waiting tables and working at, you know, restaurants and stuff. And then I was a substitute teacher and like doing, you know, it was just like whatever, like jobs. And it's hard, you know, to like be like creative and like really be very prolific if you're like working a lot, like with, you know what I mean, all day, like doing these other things, which I learned. Like I loved being a substitute teacher. It was awesome. Like I'm so grateful, by the way, for that experience, to be like in my 20s, like working with high school kids and stuff, you know, like, it was cool. It was very eye-opening, cool. And at the same time, it wasn't what I wanted ultimately to be doing with my life, even though I had moments where I was like, whoa, like maybe I could be a teacher, like that'd be tight, you know, like I love this. And so I didn't want to leave Austin. I just wanted to be able to like make a living doing music, and it wasn't happening there. And no labels were paying attention to me, really. I mean, I had like some local record labels in Austin that were interested in working with me, but I didn't really feel like that was much better than if I was just going to self-release, just because I had already been like self-releasing and it was going fine. And, you know, I wanted, if I was going to go with a label and stuff, I wanted it to be like someone that could really help a lot and do more than what I felt like I could just do on my own. And so I basically, after I self-released a second album, I was like, you know, I think, well, I self-released an EP and then I self-released 2 albums. So I had like been kind of, you know, and both times like had sent the albums around and maybe you would get nice feedback, but no, you know, no one was really like making an offer. And meanwhile, like going on tour and stuff, I'd go through LA and I really liked it. And the shows were always really cool. And I played like really cool house shows and met really nice people. And it just felt like there was an energy here that was interesting to me. And like, I thought I just wanted to try it. I just thought, you know, I just want to like check it out. And I was so in love with Austin. Like, I didn't even want to say like, I'm moving to LA. I just said, I'm going to go for an extended stay. Like I had a friend who was subletting her house for a little bit. And I was like, I'm just going to go like sublet and just check it out. And I did. I came for like a few months and I really liked it. And then I was back in Texas for a little while. I was living in Lockhart. I made Cosmic Wink during that time when I was living in Lockhart. Still didn't have a record label, my 3rd album. And I was like, I gotta move to LA. Like, and my friend was moving out of her house and offered it to me. And it just kind of seemed like an opportunity to just like really dive in and try it out. So when she moved, I took over her house. I still live in that house to this day.
Wow. And what year was that?
So the official house takeover year was the summer of 2017.
Oh, wow. Because if I remember correctly, I could be wrong about this. I remember you saying like you moved to LA, but it wasn't really until like COVID, like the lockdown, that you felt that like you really fell in love with it.
Yeah, it's true. Like I was kind of like in and out so much, like before lockdown time. And I was so like one foot in, one foot out. Like I was still like, I'm going to move back to Texas, like maybe in 6 months, or, it was always like, LA is just like a thing I'm trying, but like Texas is home. And
That's
then
exactly how I feel right now.
You feel that right now?
Yeah. Let's stick with you though. This is about you.
Well, but you haven't, like, when did you move here again? Like, not
I'm
that long.
I'm coming up on 1 year, like March 15th or something of last year. I drove out here and then started work at Skylight like immediately. So it's just about 1 year. Yeah.
I mean, it took me like 2.5 year. I mean, it took me I think it took me longer than it takes a lot of people though, because I was probably gone more than I was here those first couple of years. So yeah, once like, COVID, I don't know. It's weird. The lockdown, like it was really nice to be in LA. It felt really like special and weird and quiet. And like, I could get to the beach in 20 minutes with no traffic. Like,
and was it that like a productive time for you creatively? Like, were you recording music? Because it's like, it feels like the answer goes two ways, where it's like I wasn't doing anything. I needed just to like not be consumed by dread, and that meant like staying in bed, or people were like kind of putting their nose down and cranking stuff out.
Yeah, I was writing a lot. I wrote a lot of songs.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was supposed to be like tour time. Because like my album Sorceress came out, and I was supposed to be on tour like for the whole rest of the year, basically. And then like all of that got canceled, and I was just like, well, I might as well write another record.
Amazing. And then I'm curious, so for those of you who don't know, I've teased it a little bit. Jess is a sometimes secondhand bookseller on Instagram. You can see the account. It's at Vibe Management, Vibe_management. And was that sort of like a holdover from your Austin days of just like wanting like a side hustle on top of music, like to be selling books on Instagram?
The thing is, I would say it was inspired a lot by when I lived in Austin, because when I lived in Austin for a couple of years, my roommate was this amazing person named Michaela Bowman, and she had a bookstore in Austin called Farewell Books. And they had new and used books, but like the coolest stuff, like the coolest stuff. And I would always like see the stuff that she carried and like, admired what she was doing, but didn't really know anything about it. And then basically like what happened was, so it was like COVID, it was like lockdown time. And well, I guess I'm just jumping into the story of Vibe Management beginning. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, so I went to this estate sale one day, like in my neighborhood, Los Feliz, the same neighborhood as Skylight Books, my favorite neighborhood bookstore. And I went to this estate sale, and it was this estate sale for this person who had been like a guitarist in a psychedelic rock band. He had like passed away. And so his stuff was like very cool, like really special stuff. And I was looking through his books, and they were amazing. And they were old, like a lot of them were from like the 60s, 70s. And like, honestly, I thought about Michaela, my old roommate, and I thought about like her bookstore. And it was not anything I had ever like done, bought books to sell, but I just bought a huge stack of books. I just like got excited and bought this huge stack of books and didn't really know what I was going to do with them, and like reached out to Michaela, and we were talking about it. And I had this Instagram account called Vibe Management that I just had never posted anything on. Like I had started it as like a I didn't even know what it was. I'd started actually when I was living in Lockhart in like 2017. I just like made the account. I posted some like just pictures of stuff I like or my own photography or whatever. I didn't really know what it was going to be. And then I just
Finsta.
Basically, I thought like maybe I'll be one of those people that makes like one of those cool Instagram accounts with like pretty pictures. But then I didn't care enough, you know what I mean? So it was inactive for 3 years. And then I happened to log in and I noticed that it had like all these followers. And I was like, who are all these? Like, what is this? You know, come to find out, I think it was like, in retrospect, I think they were all fake. I think they were like bots, you know? Because one day I actually like kind of like scrolled and I was like, wait, these don't seem like real human beings. Like, so I don't think, I think most of those followers are fake. I didn't buy them, but I don't know why they're there. I don't understand it, honestly. But it was this thing where I was like, well, wow, I guess all these people are like following my inactive account. Like, maybe I could start selling stuff. Like, I like this kind of like punk rock thing of like, you can just sell stuff on Instagram. I mean, I know Instagram couldn't be less punk rock, but I like, I like the idea of like, I don't have to go on eBay or Etsy and like pay a percentage. Like, I can literally just make a post and another human being can see that post and they can message me and they can send me a Venmo. Like, that's cool. And it's like COVID and like, I have nothing but time. And so oh no, my phone just said low battery, but it's probably fine. Basically, so I like talked to Michaela about it and she taught me everything I know about like selling books because she is a professional, legit bookseller. And she taught me how she prices things. She taught me how she writes the descriptions. You know, she was so nice. And I have another friend named Travis Kent who, and by the way, Michaela's still selling books. It's now under a name called Attaway Books, and it's amazing. And then my other friend, Travis Kent, who also had Farewell Books at the time with Michaela, now he's doing a thing where he sells books under the name Work Related. And so I also talked to Travis, and he gave me all this amazing advice. I was so genuinely touched by how like encouraging and supportive they were. Like, there was no competition and there was no like, they didn't make me feel like I wasn't allowed in the club. They were like, cool, good for you. Like, give it a try. Like, they were so nice, you know, and just genuine and open and helpful. And I mean, even down to like how to clean the books, like buying alcohol and buying like razor blades to like get the tags off and, you know, just all that stuff. They were so nice to me about it. And so I thought, well, I have this stack of books. Let's just see what happens. You know, I've got the time and like this Instagram account with all these followers, which I think are fake, but I didn't know that at the time, you know? And so I just posted all the books and they all sold basically.
Pretty cool. I mean, at this point, you've been doing it for a little while, kind of on and off, it seems. I bought a copy of William Gaddis's Carpenter's Gothic off of you. Good
That's
selection
right.
over there. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And
no,
go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just going to say it's off and on just because like with the online thing, it is so time consuming. And so like during lockdown, I had nothing but time. So it's a funny thing now where like I actually have like a huge stack of books I want to sell, but I don't have time to like do it on Instagram. So I'm like wondering about like in-person stuff maybe down the line, but because it's really fun. It's just like with how much time it takes to do it online, it sort of gets like it sort of feels silly to sell a book for like $8 on Instagram with like how much time it takes to sell that book for $8. You know what I mean? Like
I mean, like basically every bookstore that survived COVID now has a permanent e-commerce wing to it. And it's like, you're just going to need at least one or a couple people who that's all they do is fill the orders, get them shipped, you know, deal with customer inquiry. It's like, you know, it's not something you can just do in 2 hours on, you know, on top of your other job and, you know, everything's fine. You got to deal with snail mail. So it's time consuming.
Totally.
But you've teased the story to me separately, but you had a strange encounter recently on
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. This is why we're here, people. This story. Because when you initially asked me to do this podcast, I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't have as much time for vibe management. Like, I don't know if it makes sense for me to go on the Skylight Books podcast, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's what my coworker said too.
Oh, really? That's so funny. And then, wait, about me or about themselves?
Go on, continue.
Let me talk to this coworker. So I was like, I don't think it makes sense for me to go on your podcast. And then this crazy thing happened. And then I texted you and I was like, wait, we should talk about this. Okay, so actually that very first time that I did, like the very first vibe management drop, there was one book that didn't sell. And it was called Our Earth, Our Cure. It was like this cool, like natural medicine book from, I think, the 70s. I really liked it. Like, I really liked the cover. I really liked the inside. It was designed really cool, like really hippie, and like had a lot of like cool information. Like, I liked it. But, you know, I did my research based on the stuff that I'd learned, and like it was worth, I priced it at $18. It was not, you know, like a rare, valuable book at that time. And nobody bought it. And so it was this thing where I was like, kind of like happy that no one bought it because I liked it, you know? And so I was like, okay, I guess this is just mine now. Like, we'll see. And then, you know, I was on tour. I was busy. Like, I hadn't looked at the Vibe Management account in a while. I wasn't like actively selling any new stuff. And forgot that this one was like way back in the feed and like still said for sale. And one day I'm on my like personal Instagram account and I get this message from someone that I don't know. And it's like a link to the post from like, I think the fall of 2020 when I listed that book. And it said, hey, can I buy this book? And I'm like, that's weird. And I go I like dust off the old Vibe Management account. I like log in for the first time in months. And I noticed that like, in the past couple days, 2 different people had messaged me about that book, and somebody else had commented on the same post, like being like, hey, how do I buy this book? I'm like, this is weird. Like, is this like a scam? Are these bots? Like, what is this? And so I think it's fake, but I replied to the person that like took the time to like find my personal account. And I was like, sure, you can buy it. Like, here's how it works. Like, here's my Venmo. She was like, okay, thank you so much. I'm going to download Venmo. I'm going to sign up for Venmo so I can pay for this. And I'm like, this is so weird. But then I like get the Venmo and like, she sends me her address and I'm like, it's literally like, you know, I like pack it up. I like put it in the envelope. I'm like, it's on my desk. Like, I'm going to go to the post office the next day. And I decide to respond to the other person that had messaged me. And I was like, hey, sorry, like it's sold already. And she wrote back like right away, and she was like, oh, that's okay. Like, thanks for letting me know. And I think I even said, I was like, it's so weird. I got like 3 different requests for that same book in one day. And this person, the person who didn't buy it, was like, oh, well, yeah, this book is kind of having a moment right now on the internet. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she was like, yeah, it's going viral on TikTok. And I was like, really? And I'm not on TikTok. And I Googled the book and I saw that it was for sale on eBay for starting bid $5,000. And that was the only one I could find. It wasn't like back in like the fall of 2020 when I searched it, it was everywhere for nothing, you know? And it's like, there wasn't on all of my channels where I like would search to see what books are priced at. It was sold out everywhere. And there was one on the entire internet, and it was on eBay for $5,000. And then there was, you know, mine that this person had just Venmoed me $22, which includes shipping for. And so now this like second person is like my friend, and I'm like, wait, are you serious? Like, how do I see this? Like, I don't use TikTok. And she was like, here, I'll show you. And she like went on TikTok and did like a screen recording of like these videos. And basically, and then I figured out how to do it. And I went into TikTok and I saw these videos myself. But basically, like this person who is I guess has a large following on TikTok, sort of like in the conspiracy realm of like big pharma and stuff, had made a video where she was like, this is the kind of book that you need to be reading. It's called Our Earth, Our Cure. You know, it's all about how like everything we need to heal our bodies is like in the earth, in the natural world. And she like makes this whole video. That's the first video where she's just like, hey, this book is great. Everyone go get this book. Then the second video is she's like, so 4 days ago when I posted my video, this book was selling on Amazon for, you know, some amount, $100 or something, which is still a lot. And she was like, now when I go look, this book is for sale for $3,000. And then if you look again, it's for $7,000, like whatever. Basically like this whole thing with Amazon where like the price of this book was like $7,000 or some like crazy amount. And her whole thing to her TikTok followers is she's like, what do they not want us to know? Like what's in this book?
So the idea was that Big Pharma caught wind of the TikTok and decided we need to keep this out of print book out of people's hands. So we'll drive up the price so that no one gets their hands on it. I love it.
That is what she seemed to be implying in her video, that there is something in this book that they don't want us to know. And that is why so many people wanted the book. Even down to on Etsy, people are selling PDFs of the book, digital files of the book for $50.
Wow. Do you think she was sitting on multiple copies of this book and was
How funny. She's actually the person that has it on eBay for $5,000 starting
bid.
Yeah. So I wrote the original person and I was like, hey, I'm really sorry. I just found out what's going on with this book. I cannot sell you this book.
Wow. You canceled the transaction.
Yes,
that was gonna be my next question. So you got fleeced and followed through, or you backed out?
I backed out. I hadn't mailed it yet. And I was just like, I just need to take a beat because this is crazy. Like,
yeah.
I just need to like take a second. Like, what's even going on? What is this? You know? And actually she was so nice. She was wow. No problem at all. I totally understand. I was like, wow, okay. So I just like refunded her $22.
Yeah.
And I called my bookseller friends. I called Michaela, I called Travis, and I got some advice from them. And then I myself put the book on eBay and
cashed in.
Yeah. And I sold it. And what's really funny is I sold it and I got really sad actually, like when it sold, because it was like, it went for like, to me, a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that was cool. But then I was like, damn, like I actually love this book, you know? And like, I had been like looking every day to see if there were more copies. There were no copies ever, except for like the other one on eBay for $5,000.
Yeah.
And then the day that I sold it, I just happened to check Amazon just to see because I was sad.
Whoa. If this is an Amazon happy ending story, it's out. I'm sorry. Yeah. We're not going to talk about a happy ending on Amazon on the Skylight Books podcast.
Well,
so in the end, you another copy appeared, and you ended up with the book. We won't say where it came from.
Yeah. In the end,
yeah,
I was able to find. For some reason, the day that mine sold, I was able to find another copy and I bought it. It was for like $25 and I bought it. And so I have it sitting right here. And so I have the book.
Yeah, you got all the secrets that Big Pharma doesn't want us to know. Healthy living. I see wisps of incense smoke drifting across the frame here. It's a healthy living out here in Los Feliz.
Yeah, so kind of a crazy story.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Follow Vibe Management. Maybe there'll be more secret books of good living that are hot items on conspiracy theory TikTok coming up soon.
Yep.
Yeah,
probably, almost certainly.
My last question for you is you're heading out on tour soon. I've always kind of wondered, like, you're a reader. Do you read much on tour? Like, how does that affect the reading life at all? Is it like an escape for you, or are you just sort of like, spacing out on the bus? stop to stop.
Yeah, I'm not that good at reading on tour, honestly. I want to get better at it, but I'm just so easily distracted. There's like so much going on.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you asked, because I'm inspired to really try harder on this tour to read a lot, because there's so much time. You could read a lot.
Yeah.
There's always people around. There's, it's just, there's a lot of energy in the air and buzzing around it. Like, I think of reading as something I do like when I'm alone.
Yep. Do you have anything on your tour stack that you're going to bring or that you've been trying to get to?
I've been reading this book called The Powers of Two. It's a non-fiction book about creative pairs. It talks about Paul McCartney and John Lennon. It talks about Trey Parker and Matt Stone. It talks about Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Like, basically, it's like this guy wrote this book about like the power of a creative pair and like the dynamics at play, how they work. And it's been a fun read. But I feel like I need a good novel. So if you have any recommendations, I'd love.
Certainly do. That's what we do at Skylight. The ones that are going to come immediately to mind, Fake Accounts, Lauren Euler. That's one of the recently in paperback. It's a really good contemporary, funny, insightful depiction of contemporary life, like during Trump's presidency. What else have I? I'm just looking around my apartment. I'm reading The Flamethrowers, Rachel Kushner. Rachel Kushner was like a writer for Artforum for years, and this is like set in the 70s in New York City's like downtown art scene, but also like the Italian Red Brigade labor movement in the 70s. That's a really cool one. I think you'd be into like the time period and feeling of it, but
cool. You're not the first person to recommend that, actually.
It was a big book when it came out in 2013. I'm reading it actually for my family's book club, which meets.
That's so cute. Your family has a book club?
Yeah. I started a few years ago. We're in our third year. We're going strong.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. I think this is the 12th book we're doing. I pick all the books. There's no voting.
That's very cool. That's very, very sweet.
Yeah. It's
and they
a lot
listen to you. They read whatever you tell them to read.
They always like the books Mikey picks,
Wow.
Sometimes they're challenging, sometimes they're a little too dark, but they tend to like them. Yeah, we have a good time. Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah, but if you don't like those works, you can always swing by Skylight. We got all the booksellers have good different tastes, so that's.
Dude, I will. I'm gonna come to Skylight before tour, and I'm going to purchase a book from y'all.
Yeah, definitely.
And you know what? And I'm gonna read it.
There you go. I love setting the intention. That's what it's all about.
I made the mistake of bringing Lonesome Dove on the last tour I did, and it's just it's weird. I don't know. I would love it when I was reading it, and then I just had this weird wall between like actually.
Yeah.
Have you read Lonesome Dove?
I haven't. I was reading Walter Benjamin at the Dairy Queen, his book. His
Dude,
book. It's great. Yeah.
I haven't read the whole thing, but I love what I've read of that.
Yeah.
I picked that up recently, like at a friend's house, and was like, "This is genius. I love this."
Yeah, Lonesome Dove is long though. I mean, I have that feeling with long books sometimes, where it's just like, reading 30 pages doesn't feel like a dent, so it becomes to feel like Sisyphean. Like you're never gonna get it done. Yeah.
Yes, totally. No, and on tour, I kind of need something a little bit. Yeah, just.
We'll get you some short stories. Yeah, it sounds like you need some short stories and some essays, you read for 20 minutes and you get a feeling of completion and the whole experience. Yeah.
Totally.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, Jess.
Thanks for having me.
Today's guest was singer-songwriter Jess Williamson. You can order many of the books we mentioned on today's podcast at skylightbooks.com or swing by, pick them up at the store. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks again, Jess.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Skylight Books podcast series. Please don't forget to visit our website at skylightbooks.com and make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast for more author talks and bookseller conversations. You can find us on Podbean, iTunes, and Spotify. Stay safe and healthy, and we hope to see you back in our store soon.